the fog game that stopped the Stanley Cup Finals. On May 20, 1975, Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Final between the Buffalo Sabres and Philadelphia Flyers turned into something out of a horror movie. The Buffalo Memorial Auditorium, built in 1940, had no air conditioning. When temperatures hit 82 degrees with 62% humidity, warm air met frozen ice and created a fog so thick that players disappeared from the waist down. Fans in the upper seats couldn't see anything. Play was stopped repeatedly, both in regulation and in overtime, while arena staff and players skated circles trying to clear the mist. Then a bat started dive-bombing players. Buffalo's Jim Lorentz killed it mid-flight with his stick. The game ended in overtime when Rene Roberts scored a goal that Flyers goalie Bernie Parent admitted he never saw through the fog. This game highlighted the need for better climate control in arenas, and over time, teams upgraded facilities and ice maintenance standards for playoff games. The Stanley Cup Finals that never finished. Game 4 of the 1988 Stanley Cup Final between Edmonton and Boston was tied 3-3 when the Boston Garden went completely dark. The 4,000-volt electrical switch failed with 3 minutes 23 seconds left in the second period. The 60-year-old arena's backup generators could only provide emergency lighting for 20 minutes, so everyone had to evacuate. Under NHL rules at the time, the game wasn't resumed. It was scrapped entirely and rescheduled in Edmonton. This created a bizarre situation where Edmonton swept the series in 5 games, even though Game 4 technically never finished. Some individual records from that game still count in the official books, like Glenn Anderson's goal just 10 seconds in, the fastest in Stanley Cup final history. The coach who hacked hockey's rulebook. Roger Nielsen, nicknamed Captain Video, was a genius at finding loopholes the NHL never knew existed. In a 1968 OHL game, he realized the rulebook didn't say a goaltender had to defend a penalty shot. So he sent defenseman Ron Stackhouse out instead, telling him to charge the shooter the moment they crossed the blue line. It worked. The NHL immediately changed the rule. Nielsen also figured out that since a team couldn't be reduced to fewer than 3 skaters, no matter how many penalties they got, he could abuse the too many men penalty. When facing a 5-on-3 disadvantage in the final minute, he'd send an extra player onto the ice every 10 seconds. This forced the refs to blow the whistle and reset play, preventing the other team from setting up and running out the clock. The NHL created Rule 74.4 in response, allowing a penalty shot if a team intentionally commits illegal substitution in the final 2 minutes. He also had his goalies leave their sticks lying across the crease when pulled for an extra attacker. Any puck shot from the far end would hit the stick and deflect away from the empty net. Now the NHL automatically awards a goal if equipment left in the crease redirects a puck. The player traded for a team bus. In 1983, the Seattle Breakers traded Tom Martin's rights to the Victoria Cougars for a used team bus. Seattle's bus had blown an engine, and Victoria had an extra bus they couldn't legally import into Canada due to unpaid taxes. The deal also included $35,000, earning Martin the lifelong nickname Bussy. He eventually played in the NHL for Winnipeg, Hartford, and Minnesota. This wasn't even the strangest trade. In 1993, the Winnipeg Jets traded Chris Draper to Detroit for literally $1. The Jets wanted to clear a roster spot. Draper went on to play 1,137 games for Detroit, winning 4 Stanley Cups and the Selke Trophy. He later gave the Red Wings owner a $1 bill as a symbolic repayment. The Rangers acquired Ray Shepard from Buffalo for $1 in 1990. Shepard later scored 52 goals in a single season for Detroit. The Octopus Tradition and the Rat Trick. On April 15, 1952, Pete and Jerry Cusimano threw an octopus onto the ice at Detroit Olympia. The 8 tentacles represented the 8 wins needed to capture the Stanley Cup in the original 6 era. The Red Wings won the championship in 8 straight games that year, making the octopus a symbol of good fortune. This led to Al the Octopus becoming the team's mascot, with ice managers twirling retrieved octopuses above their heads to energize crowds. Florida created an even more chaotic tradition during the 1995-96 season. Before the home opener, Scott Mellenby killed a rat in the locker room with his stick, then used that same stick to score 2 goals. Goalie John Van Beesbrook called it a rat trick, and fans started throwing plastic rats onto the ice after every goal. By the 1996 playoffs, thousands of rats would hit the ice after a single goal. The NHL implemented a new rule where home teams face a bench minor penalty for delay of game if fans continue throwing objects after an official warning. Goaltenders who vomited and talked to posts. Glenn Hall, known as Mr. Goalie, forced himself to vomit before every game to reach a state of nervous wiring he believed was necessary for peak performance. If he wasn't physically ill, he didn't feel prepared to defend the net. Patrick Waugh held conversations with his goalposts, thanking them when a puck hit the post instead of going in. He also hopped over all the lines on the ice during his pregame skate to avoid jinxing his performance. Wayne Gretzky followed a specific beverage sequence after warm-ups: Diet Coke, water, Gatorade, and a second Diet Coke. He refused to get his hair cut on the road and tucked only the right side of his jersey into his pants. Sidney Crosby tapes his sticks in a very specific pattern and requires them to be retaped if anyone else touches them. He also avoids calling his mother on game days, believing it leads to injury. Bruce Gardner baptized his stick by dipping the blade into a toilet before games to break scoring slumps. the injuries that shouldn't be possible. Professional hockey players are supposed to be the toughest athletes on earth, but somehow the most devastating injuries happen away from the rink. Dustin Penner, a 6'4" power forward, threw out his back while eating pancakes. He leaned over his plate wrong and couldn't play for weeks. Joe Sakic broke his fingers and damaged tendons using a snowblower to clear a jam in the machine. Craig Anderson sliced his hand open, separating frozen chicken breasts in his kitchen, requiring surgery. Brent Sopel suffered a severe back spasm from bending over to pick up a cracker off the floor. Darren Turcotte injured his eardrum cleaning his ears with a cotton swab. Eric Johnson tore knee ligaments when his foot got caught between golf cart pedals during a team outing. Adam McQuaid got a concussion from tripping over his luggage in a hotel room. Eetu Luostarinen was listed as week-to-week after a barbecuing mishap. Glenn Healy sliced his fingers open while playing the bagpipes, requiring stitches and missing several games. The team that wore white skates. From 1967 to 1978, the California Golden Seals were owned by Charles O. Finley, who subjected them to bizarre marketing decisions. The most famous was introducing polar bear white skates. Finley, who also owned the Oakland A's, believed colored skates would make the team more identifiable. Players and fans widely mocked them. The white skates became a symbol of the franchise's dysfunction and poor performance. The team struggled both on the ice and at the box office, making the playoffs only twice in their entire existence. The franchise eventually failed, moving to Cleveland for 2 seasons, before being absorbed in the only merger in modern NHL history with the Minnesota North Stars. The team that boycotted the draft. In 1983, the St. Louis Blues were owned by Ralston Purina, which tried to sell the team to a group in Saskatoon. When the NHL blocked the move, Ralston Purina effectively terminated the franchise, refusing to continue operations or participate in the 1983 NHL entry draft. The league was forced to take control of the team, which had no representation at the draft and made 0 selections that year. The Blues essentially ceased to exist for a brief period until the NHL found new ownership. This remains the only time in modern NHL history that a franchise completely skipped a draft, creating a bizarre gap in the team's prospect development that affected them for years. The goal scored from a couch. Nathan Horton scored a goal in a game he didn't play in and wasn't even present for. On March 10, 2014, Horton scored for Columbus against Dallas at the 6:23 mark of the first period. Moments later, Dallas player Rich Peverley collapsed on the bench from a cardiac event, and the game was postponed. When the makeup game was played a month later in Dallas, the NHL ruled the score would remain 1-0, but the clock would start over at 0-0. Horton missed the makeup game due to injury, meaning he's officially credited with a goal in a game he didn't play in, while sitting at home in Columbus as the game occurred in Dallas. This created a unique statistical anomaly that will likely never be repeated in NHL history. The Sedin twins and mathematical impossibilities. Daniel and Henrik Sedin's careers were marked by surreal mathematical coincidences that seemed statistically impossible. In one game, Daniel scored at 2:33 of overtime, assisted by Henrik and Alec Edler, number 23. This occurred on Bo Horvat's 23rd birthday and gave goaltender Jacob Markstrom his 23rd win of the season. Faceoffs for the game were 33-22 in favor of Vancouver, matching the Twins' jersey numbers perfectly. During Anson Carter's lone season playing with the Twins, he finished with exactly 33 goals and 22 assists, the exact jersey numbers of the Sedin brothers. These coincidences happened so frequently throughout their careers that fans began to wonder if the universe itself was in on the joke. The contract, the NHL voided. In 2010, the New Jersey Devils tried to sign Ilya Kovalchuk to a 17-year, $102 million contract designed to circumvent the salary cap. The deal would pay Kovalchuk $98 million in the first 11 years before dropping to just $550,000 for the final seasons when he'd be in his mid-40s. The structure was clearly designed to lower the annual cap hit while having no intention of Kovalchuk actually playing those final years. The league voided the contract, calling it blatant cap circumvention, and fined the Devils $3 million while stripping them of draft picks. This was unprecedented. The NHL had never before rejected a contract that both sides had agreed to. Kovalchuk eventually signed a 15-year deal with slightly better optics, but retired to Russia just 3 years later, proving the league's suspicions correct. The mandatory soccer ball. The NHL collective bargaining agreement includes Exhibit 36, which mandates that every home club must provide a standardized set of workout equipment to visiting teams, maintained in good working order. The document lists items such as stationary bikes, free weights, mats, hydrotherapy equipment, and even a soccer ball, reflecting how seriously teams take pre-game warm-ups and player preparation. The soccer ball requirement stands out as particularly unusual, and players commonly use it for pre-game suey or two-touch, a warm-up game that also serves as team bonding.